Hello, and welcome to the 2020 series presented by the New York Film Academy. The 2020 series are conversations with creative visionaries about craft, creativity, and collaboration. We'll have 20 minutes of shop talk and then 20 minutes of answering questions from you guys, the global audience. So please write in. I am Liz Hinlein, creative director and filmmaker and creator of the 2020 series. And I am so thrilled to have you guys hear our conversation with Amanda Toney, who's a brilliant producer, managing director of Stage 32, and all-around cool chick. And here is Amanda. And there she is. Voila, look at her.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, so great to see you. Thank you for showing up.
Absolutely. Anything for you, Liz. And congrats on the 2020 series. I've watched a ton of them and just super proud of what you've put together with this.
Oh, thank you. So I want to start sort of big and funnel down. You are boots on the ground now, right at the AFM market festival. I don't even know how they talk about it right now, the market, I guess. So what are you seeing? What are the big themes or what are the takeaways you're seeing going to this next phase of being creators and filmmakers post-pandemic?
Sure. And, one of my company, Stage 32, we're the official networking partner of AFM. So we are very involved with the conference. We've had the opportunity to be partners with them for the last 8 years in a row. So it's been really fun to watch the conference evolve. But what we're seeing on the ground is that more and more just production is global. Everything is international at this point. So there are so many opportunities to be able to get your films made in different countries, so many tax incentives and a lot of money that are coming out of different countries. So what we're seeing is that there's definitely a lot of need for international fare that will be able to transcend borders and be able to appeal to a global audience. So that's a lot what we've been taking out this week as AFM has been happening.
Are you finding, though, that countries are now being more wanting films from their own filmmakers as opposed to buying or collaborating with filmmakers from other countries?
It's a great question. What we're noticing is the evolution. We did a partnership with Netflix this last year, and with you notice that a lot of local language projects are used to only have one home, which would be a specific channel that is within a certain country. But one of the things that we're really noticing is, like, with the success of programs like Squid Games or Lupin, you're taking stories that are, really that can appeal to every human being, but it takes place in a different world, like in a different country, in a different, world that we haven't seen before. So yes, there's still a need for local language content for their respective, channels and whatnot. But now with the explosion of streamers, with Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, Paramount, we want those stories to appeal to the entire world, not just the country that they're specifically in.
So before we move on, because I've had so many questions about that. So that's so badass that you guys are the networking partners of AFM. So what does that mean actually? And what does that look like on the ground?
So we, our platform, Stage 32, we have an enormous community. We have nearly 1 million members inside the Stage 32 platform. And so what we have really tried to do is, over the last 11 years, is we've tried to help the world get a little bit smaller. And so it's really, we've created the platform to be able to help collaborators stay in touch, not just during the markets like AFM or the Cannes Film Festival, which we're also partners with, but allowing people to be able to stay in touch 24/7, 365. So as the partner, we're involved with helping with some of their the talks that they have at AFM and helping, plan some of the things that they have going on there. And we just, this year, we're going to be involved with the pitch conference as well, where one of the, that's one of the biggest hits for AFM, where, thousands of people come in and watch that every year. And so Stage 32 is actually going to give an honorary mentorship to the second place winner for the pitch conference this year.
Nice. Now let's talk, we've mentioned the word networking a lot of times. And usually with filmmakers, even like myself, that somewhat sends chills down my backbone. Like, I'm like, oh God, this sounds like a big, like, I'm shy. It's, what will they think of me? Maybe my work's not good enough. Like, how are you guys framing that? And what are you seeing? What is networking nowadays?
Yeah, you're like a lot of people, Liz. The truth of the matter is that we're in a creative industry, and a lot of creatives, whether you're an actual creator or even on the business side, we're introverts, because ultimately this is art, and a lot of people are introverts. So we don't look at it necessarily as networking as it is relationship building. And at the end of the day, one of the benefits is that the internet has allowed people to be able to kind of break down that barrier, where in person, sometimes it is awkward to walk up to a strange group of people and try and introduce yourself. But the internet, has definitely really helped. And I think one of the biggest benefits that we've had with the Stage 32 community is that we have always really made it a safe space, free from the toxicity from broader based platforms like Twitter or Reddit, and we really make it a safe space for artists to be able to come in and connect and really collaborate with one another based on their artistic pursuits. But at the end of the day, if you're an introvert, you need to find that online community that will really welcome you with open arms, because chances are we know there's tons of introverts within the Stage 32 community that feel the same exact way as you, and and everybody's welcoming and wanting to connect with each other.
And sort of to dovetail with that, in looking at your bio in the last year or so, you've sold scripted and non-scripted projects, which is amazing. So we're going to circle back to networking, but I want to know what do you find is essential in a pitch package, and what would be different in a scripted than a non-scripted?
Oh, good question. And it actually does kind of dovetail into networking, in that both of the projects that I sold over the last year came through networking on Stage 32. And again, not knowing anybody, I had the ability to be able to meet the right collaborators to help put together the projects. But in terms of the pitch package, I'll start with the first show that I had sold. It was a premium unscripted project. And in that particular scenario, since there wasn't necessarily a scripted narrative, we weren't working with the script. Ideally, what I had to do is find the actual cast members that would be part of the series, and the document included the backstory of all of those the characters that we had, and then based on where they were at within their lives, we were able to loosely figure out like where the season would go, and then the subsequent seasons. So the pitch package included the background of the characters, where we saw, potentially it could go, but then also the sizzle reel as well, in terms of getting, with casting, we were able to do do interviews and be able to kind of give a slice of life of what those, that group would, how they would, I guess, take the story over the next season. So that was the unscripted, which we sold to an American network. So that we filmed that one we filmed the pilot during COVID, which was an experience and a half.
I bet. Before we move on from that, did you have to get the rights to people's life story? Like, did you have to, before you went out to pitch it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of the things is that, if you are going to embark on an unscripted show, it's important that you do your research and be able to learn the types of contracts that you need to get done to do that. But yes, there were talent attachment agreements that I put together with the cast members before I was able to then put the package together to go to production companies and then ultimately the network.
So did you think that this I'm Amanda, I come up with this, which you're genius. So you come up with a super cool idea. Did you play it out with people before you started doing the hustle of code? Now we got to go find these people. Now we got to go do this. Or did you just like sort of say, we're just going to go for it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have again going back to networking, and just finding your tribe and finding your collaborators. Over the years, I have people that I truly trust. One is my mentor, and he, I ran a lot by him, and I said, okay, what do you think about this? And I broke down the characters, what their specific traits were, what their potential arcs were. So we kind of worked through those things together, and then ultimately that helped shape where I took the project. So it wasn't flying blind. I think a lot of it, when you go after something, I think you could go either way. I think you can either just fly blind and just hope for the best, or if you truly want to get something sold, you do need to do the research and get that feedback.
So did you leverage contacts to get in the room to pitch, or did you have an agent helping you or manager, or how did that work?
For the unscripted one, and then the scripted one is different too. So I'd love to talk about that as well. But for the unscripted one, I utilized connections that I made on Stage 32, and ultimately found my production partner for it. And they produce a lot in the premium unscripted space. And then the agent that was attached to the production company set up all of our meetings with the networks, and obviously we used relationships that we had as well to get indoors, in different places. But ultimately the network that we sold it to came through the meeting set up by the agent.
And then how did that differ from the scripted experience you had?
Yeah, well, so the scripted project is, for the creators who are listening, that, I think one of the things that we hear as creators is that no one does drama, no one does period pieces, and that they're too expensive. No one wants to do it. We have a period piece that I'm so excited that we sold to a mini studio several months ago. And so with that one, I found an incredible writer who found a unique world, as we were talking about, earlier, to like the international appeal to things. We found a really unique world that has not been done before, but it does have universal themes, of greed, of politics, of the ecology. Wow. And we did a ton of research on it, and then through connections that I made on Stage 32, he polished the pilot to where we really, really loved it. Then through connections I made on Stage 32, I actually met our showrunner. So again, I did the research on the showrunner that I think this would have been a great fit. And then ultimately the showrunner signed on to the project, which I'm just thrilled about. And then the two of them worked together on the show Bible. And then what we did is we went out with the pitch. At that point, I met a manager who represented our project that I also met on Stage 32. So he took on the project, and then we went out with the pilot and the Bible. And then, we're able to get pitch meetings from there. So we didn't have a sizzle or anything, but we did have the Bible is crucial in order to pitch television right now. You have to have a Bible. And ultimately that's what got us in the room.
That's amazing. Also, because it doesn't come from IP. It's an original idea. That must have been, that's a huge thing to surmount. And how did you guys do that?
Yeah, it's funny, Liz, there's a period, and I'm sure you've talked about this on the show, that, the entertainment industry is very cyclical, in terms of like one time here, sometimes comedies are in vogue, sometimes this is in vogue. We came up with this project when IP was in vogue, and it still is in vogue. It's great to have something based off of IP, but the story was unique enough, and it is loosely based off of real people that were involved with this project, of this time period. But, ultimately it wasn't a hindrance that we didn't have IP, because the story was unique enough, and the writing is just incredible.
That's super exciting. And how has your being in the room pitching changed, or as you've now you're selling things, getting more confident?
Yeah. Well, pitching always sucks. It just always sucks. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter how many times you do it, it always sucks.
exactly.
And I think every time, and it, as long as you know your material, you start to get better and you start to have more confidence. But, no two pitches are the same. And back when I sold the unscripted, we were in rooms at that point, because this was before COVID that we sold it. And being in rooms, you're able to feed off the energy of the people in front of you. But now so much pitching is done still on Zoom. So,
Right.
I really would say, make sure your visuals are impactful and recognize that the people on the other side of the pitch are listening to dozens of pitches a day. And so even though your story is so important to you, you have to be able to find those techniques that can tell your story in an economy of time. So you're not rambling on for an hour, with your pitch, because they only have so much brain capacity on the other side.
100%. But the good thing about Zoom is, like mine, I can put notes everywhere. so you can sort of do these cheat sheets around and be like.
Totally. Our creator, he took a picture. He had our writer creator, he had like little notes everywhere around his computer. So then that also helps you and prepares you. So if they have questions and afterwards for the Q&A, he could be like, oh, looking at that note, and I could find, the answer there. So. Exactly.
And I think, and especially you're such a great presenter too. After a while, it probably just becomes more a conversation, relationship building, less, please buy my project.
Yeah, you're right, Liz. And, to that point, I think, for people who are listening, I'm sure some people have pitched, maybe people haven't pitched that are listening. But the thing is that, the thing that's always lost, in a lot of pitches, that like, this is a human to human connection. And it always circles back to, again, networking, community building. It's a human connection. And ultimately, the person listening to that pitch, like, they're not going to want to know every single minute detail of your project. Hit the top beats so they can understand them, and allow for a conversation and allow for them to truly process what it is that you're pitching. And that is really going to help you in your pitches, rather than, taking a piece of paper and like regurgitating and saying, and then this happens and this happens, and then the fact you do this. No, it's, hit those top beats and then just relate to the person on the other side as a human being.
100%. And I think the other thing that is missed, even until now, is finally in the last couple of years understood, is like, who do I want to work with? Not just to sell the thing, like, but who, after you put your sweat and tears into a baby and I'm midwifing it, who do I want to be the parents of it? Or be the adopted parents, right? It's not just anybody and everybody.
You're totally right. And it's, there's not a fast track. I'm sure everybody will say this, there's not like a golden ticket that one day you just wake up, sell something, make $1 gajillion, and it's easy. And there's, it just happens overnight. It's years oftentimes for projects. The scripted that I just sold, that this has been going on for years, working at developing and whatnot. And ultimately, there's so many highs and lows, and you get so many notes from different people, whether it's a financier, whether it's the studio, whether it's an actor, that like you need to love the people that you're working with, like you said, Liz, because it's not just, you don't just automatically like, the script just gets sold and then it's just made exactly as is, because you're going to get notes, you're going to have a million rewrites, and you want to do that with people that you like, because, and again, as artists, you get harsh notes, and, you've got to change things, I'm sure you talked about killing your darlings, and that's a big part of the process. So you want to do that with people you like even the scripted show, we're out to the A-list actor that we are really excited about. And yesterday he passed, and it's like, like, that sucks. It's the worst feeling. But the cool thing is all of us, the whole team, we're all working together, that we were like, look, this sucks. We know we really wanted him, but move on,
100%.
And it's
totally. And it's next. And if they don't see it, then they're not your people. It is sort of like what we were talking about, finding your tribe, finding your people.
Totally.
a bunch of questions here, so I'm going to just jump in from Alice. She asked, when you attach these team members, cast, director, showrunner, etc., were you able to do that before your project was funded by investors?
So for the unscripted, we attached everything. We attached all of the talent without any investors. So we had the show pretty much locked up for the unscripted. And then for the scripted, we attached the writer, we attached the showrunner, and there wasn't any money exchanging hands during that time. It was a passion for the project, but we do have all of the contracts in place prior to going out to pitch. So we did have those elements before financing.
Right, but you don't want too many, because otherwise, how about if that production entity wants to put in their own something?
That's a great point, Liz. So we actually have an A-list director that wants to direct the pilot. Mm-hmm. And we made the decision not to go out with that, because there are certain times that because right now we've set this up with a mini studio. So, once we go to a buyer, so like, let's say that's Netflix, or let's say it's HBO, they might have a director that they want to work with on the pilot. So sometimes having too many attachments are a hint that can be seen as a negative. So, so I encourage you guys to really look at, the value of your attachment and what they're bringing to the project. For the attachments that we had the writer creator, and obviously that's most important. It's his vision, his world. He did the research. And then our showrunner, but he's never written television. He's only written features. So then what we did is we brought on a showrunner who's he's going into his 4th season on an Apple show. Mm-hmm. And knowing that he can run a successful show, that brought value to the project. So that to me was it was a solid enough package to go out with, rather than tossing on additional,
Very exciting. You are so on it.
I don't know about that, but.
So we have a different question from Taylor. What advice can you give to new creators trying to build their confidence? Good question, Taylor.
Oh, Taylor, you are kick-ass. Every idea you have is great. Stay positive. Building your confidence, look, it's hard. And, I myself am not an artist. I don't write, I don't act. I'm definitely more on the business side and the producing side. But by virtue of the Stage 32 community, I'm around, thousands of creatives. So I understand and have gotten to understand and empathize that, if you have an idea in your head and you put it on paper, or if you're an actor and you're putting yourself out there on camera, that's not easy. That is not easy to do that. And, it really goes back to what we talked about earlier, is that, are you spending your time in the right places to give you the support that you need? So if you're on Twitter, that tends to be pretty toxic. Reddit, just stay away from Reddit. Go to Stage 32, where if you're testing something, if you're testing, acting lines, or if you're testing, an opening to a new script that you're writing, share that on Stage 32, because you have other artists that will help support you, and they'll also help you build your confidence to keep getting better and keep getting better and keep getting better. So, just recognize where you're spending your time and just making sure that you're getting the support that you need, because as artists, you absolutely need the right support.
Well, I mean, the only thing I differentiate with you, Amanda, is that you are an artist. As they say, your production is, your budget is your creativity. And that is totally creative. Numbers are very creative. I don't think there is a differentiation. And I wanted to know because you have such a very specific lane in your career, but it's like a tree that's offshooting. How did you come up into that?
Yeah, it's, it's interesting. And I hope this is helpful too to people who might be listening. I had no experience in the entertainment industry up until 11 years ago. I worked in international fashion marketing prior to getting into entertainment, but I knew that I loved movies, I loved television, I love storytelling, and if you really go after the right education and learn this business, then the opportunities are endless. They really are. And so, for me, it really started with getting involved with the Stage 32 community 11 years ago, back when there were, I think I was Stage 32 user number like 9 or something like that. And then, I watched it build from 9 members to 500 to 500,000 and now 1 million. And within that, I got the skills from meeting people, listening, learning, really putting myself out there and just getting a true understanding of the business. And, and ultimately this business is tremendous opportunity because it's one where like, you don't necessarily, and the sky's the limit, as long as you have the passion, you can find yourself in rooms and you can network and meet people. It's a very exciting industry.
And who have been your like mentors, basically, like that helped you a lot? And did you have mentors? I guess that's one question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my mentor, is my business partner, RB. He's the founder and CEO of Stage 32. RB and I have worked together off and on now for 20 years. And, I've watched him, he really broke into an industry that I watched him break into an industry that, he had no connections. And, within that, he was able to, have a Sundance Award-winning film as a producer. He has acted in films that have premiered, around the world, and, and he sold scripts. And so, the mentorship is really important because you have to be able to bounce ideas around with someone. And again, I kind of look at the entire Stage 32 community as a mentor, because anytime I have a question, I just go into our lounge and I ask the question, and I get so much advice and so much support from people that have been there, done that. What's cool is that we have students in our community, but then we also have like Academy Award winners, BAFTA Award winners, and they're regularly in there giving advice to help people. So there's mentors everywhere, and I highly recommend, finding them.
Something, just saying hi. Okay, Mike Fold, no question from me today, saying hi to Amanda.
Hi, Mike.
One introvert to another. I will comment on how much Amanda has expanded and refined her knowledge and skills over the years.
Oh, Mike.
I think I was Stage 32 member number 10.
I love it. Oh, hi, Mike. Mike is one of my favorite people in the entire world. I have a picture of him up in my house where we were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum.
That is hysterical. Dwight asked a very simple question, not a simple question, Dwight, but when we could answer, actually. Who actually puts your projects in front of the buyers?
Good question. So what's interesting is I'll take the scripted, which I think is probably going to be more pertaining to people. So with that particular one, there's different sets of buyers, and that once I put the package together, I took it to a manager, and then the manager represented us to go out with the pitch. So the manager put us in front of that first round of quote unquote buyers, and that's the mini studio that we sold it to. So they technically can fund the project, but what they're looking to do is build the package now with attaching an A-lister to the lead role. And then once we're ready with that, then we'll go out probably with their agent to bring it to the buyers, unless, and again, pulling on our own relationships as well. So then the mini studio would then bring that specifically to the buyers.
It's a lot of footsteps.
There's a lot of things. Yeah, there's, and that's the thing. It's like there's no two ways around it. And, again, we work with Netflix, and Netflix will take pitches directly from creator through like a third party, whether that's a manager, an agent, or a entertainment attorney, and bypass someone like a mini studio or a production company. So there's definitely, and again, that goes back to like, I've learned all of this just by teaching myself and taking the right classes to be able to learn this, but there are different ways in. There's no two ways that will get you straight, to a buyer.
And how has it been working with Netflix?
I love Netflix. I love Netflix. And, all I could say is don't read everything. Don't believe everything you read. And
don't believe the hype.
Don't believe the hype.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Netflix is one of the most progressive organizations that this industry has seen. They really they see the global landscape, and they understand the importance of educating creators around the world to be able to get their projects seen. They're so about the artist and the love for the art that I don't have enough good things to say about Netflix.
Are you seeing like the studios, the old school studios, are they feeling like ancient? Are they feeling scared? Do they care and they just want to do blockbusters? What are you seeing in that end?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't work as much with the major studios, but they, I think it's two different things, Liz, and I'm sure you can agree with it. It's, like your Marvel IP and your, like everything that you're based off of these big IP projects, those little blockbusters, that's really kind of what the business has evolved into.
Right.
Like you're looking at your $100 million budget and turning into multi-billion-dollar box office that you only need to do a few of those a year. And that's very different than the 90% of other great content that's being made in film and television, because we now have democratized the industry to have distribution outlets like Netflix and Hulu and Apple and all of these other places that great stories can be told. And that's like 90% of the stuff that's getting made. So I think I don't know if they're necessarily scared. I think it's just two different businesses.
Very true. It's super interesting and do you still see, is there still a super indie, you can make your indie film, but where are you putting it? Like where, because if what are people still doing theatrical, or are people trying to just get online, or how are you seeing the smaller baby pioneer films, let's say?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was watching something this weekend, and I watched a commercial, which I don't remember the last time I watched a commercial. It was for a movie, and I don't remember the movie, but it ended with like in theaters only on the date. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a strict theatrical release. So I think that there definitely is theatrical, but true indies, like that's my favorite. Like I love, independent films, just pop up your Roku. I mean, there are so many different apps for distribution that, ultimately, like there's a streaming app that you can put your film on. And, you have companies like Gravitas who are, like really snatching up true independent films. You have independent films that are truly running that film festival circuit. And then, you'll find streaming apps that will find them. You can get that out there. And actually, I just did a panel at the Cannes Film Festival where one of the girls on my panel, she released her film on Twitch. And I thought that was fascinating.
That's cool.
And ultimately, like, if you put forth the time to build your audience for, the movie that you're making, no matter what streaming platform you put it on, people will be able to see it, which is, ultimately what you want as a creator.
Well, that's the other whole thing, that's a whole other 2020 to talk about building your audience, because I've always seen it. It's like a band. Like if you want to, you're not going to get signed by a big label if you have five followers, basically. You need to create your homegrown tribe. And then with that numbers of people that follow it, because there's also you do want to make money after you put out your life savings on this indie film.
Totally. It's a gamble. It's a gamble. And it's, it's also one of those things that, and we'll going to your point of building your audience, you should have my mentor, RB, on 2020, because he actually wrote the book Crowdsourcing for Filmmakers, which is all about how to build an audience.
I love RB. I was going to say hi, but we'll totally have him on. But it's funny. It's like that. And here's the director. It's like, what he wrote the book.
Yeah, totally.
He wrote the book.
The book on building an audience. Yeah. He wrote the book on building an audience, and there's so many great tips in his book. So if you guys, it's called Crowdsourcing for Filmmakers. It's a great resource if people are interested in that, for sure.
So Amanda, sadly, we are at time. That was zippity-doo. It was so fun. Where can people find you? Where can people, look at Stage 32 in the tribe there?
Yeah, for sure. So I was going to put it in the chat. So if you go to stage32.com/Amanda Toney, Toney, you can find me on Stage 32 all the time. And then on Twitter, I'm Stage 32 Amanda, pretty simple. And then on Instagram, just at Stage 32.
And I always wanted to know, why 32? Why not 35 or 40?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, going back to the history. So RB, our founder and CEO, he's a huge Orson Welles fan. And what's interesting is, over history, Orson Welles, history hasn't been kind to him. People have said that he's a little bit of a tyrant, which in fact, if you go back in the history books, he actually was the complete opposite. He was a total collaborator. He felt that it took a tribe to be able to make a film. And so the name Stage 32 is based off of RKO, I think it's 17, where he filmed Citizen Kane, which is arguably the best film of all time. And that's now Paramount's Stage 32. So it's a tribute to Orson Welles and his collaboration and, and his and our founder's love for Citizen Kane.
I love that. That's such a good, insider story.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, have an amazing AFM, and we'll see you on the West Coast. And thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much, Liz. I absolutely, congratulations on 2020, and, congratulations on all you're doing. I mean, you're such if you guys you'd ask the question about mentors, you are lucky enough to have Liz at the helm here. She truly is such a true educator and mentor. And, she understands the business of the business, and she understands the artist's soul as well. And so you guys are lucky to have a mentor like Liz. And I hope everybody enjoys the 2020 series.
Thank you. And everybody be safe. Bye.
Bye, everyone.